Hi, everybody. I'm Mareka, and I oversee the kids ministry at Grace Family Church. And at Grace Kids, we are just super passionate about partnering with parents and helping parents raise their kids in life and in faith. And so that's why we are here today, because we want to chat with you parents, because there's this hot topic of conversation going around about preparing your kids and getting them ready to go back to school. And parents and teachers and children alike have anxiety and uncertainty and concerns around that. And so that's why we have Angela and Tyron with us here this morning. They're going to give us a little bit more insight and advice around that. They also have an incredible online resource, which we'll chat a little bit about as well, which they've already got some posts on about getting kids ready for school. So welcome, Angela and Tyron. So lovely to have you with us today. Why don't you just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you guys this morning. And as it's been said, my name's Tyron, and this is my wife, Angela. We've been married for 14 years this year. We have 4 children, 2 boys who are 12 and 11, and 2 girls who are 5 and 6. And yeah, we were on staff at Cogs Church, which is now Anthem, for about 7 years. And from there, we planted our own church, which was called Love Church, and we led that for 3.5 years. And this year, I started a new job at Redwood College in La Lucia as their sports director and school counselor. And yeah, been absolutely loving that.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. My claim to fame in all of that is for a few years, I homeschooled the children while we planted the church, and that was just an incredible journey. And then I went through my own personal struggles with mental health. I had what you would call a breakdown, simply put, which involved some psychosis and stays in the hospital to try and get right. But with anything in life, it didn't get right overnight. It's been a long journey of having to recover who I am and my identity in God. And so that's why we are here. It's is our passion, is recovery and seeing people live life in all the fullness that God has created them for. So we're excited to be here.
That's beautiful. And you have this incredible resource now online called Come Alive on Facebook and Instagram, where you're trying to instill those very basic principles about how God created us to be with kids, so that they may have that full and life and thrive in it. So won't you just tell us a little bit about how you created that concept and what you hope to do with it?
Yes, sure. So actually it came about during lockdown, this concept of Come Alive Kids, because one of the things that I knew that I needed was more support. So with the meetings that I go to, I'm part of a team called Project Exodus. I'm one of the facilitators there that help with the group facilitation of recovery from behavior and substance abuse. And so I really needed to reach out to those groups during the beginning of lockdown. And it was an incredible resource for me to have people speaking into my life, to go over concepts of mental health, to go over concepts of recovery, to go over concepts of what are we looking at in terms of behavior. And I went to those every night. And there was a point where I turned around and I was like, sure, like I really think my kids need some of this, and they need some of it now. Like if I'm trying to deal with this as an adult and turn these behaviors around, like how much more for my children, and how incredible if I start to get them understanding these concepts now while they're little, as opposed to me who's now 35 and trying to figure it all out, how my brain works, how God created me, and how I can have freedom. And so that's basically where Come Alive Kids came from. It's taking what I've known, it's taking what people have known, collectively what we know as communities and parents, as mental health professionals, because it's never just done in isolation, and going, how can we actually help our kids now? How can we even just start the conversation? Because I think I learned in my journey with mental health that and people don't want to talk about it. People don't want to talk about when you're not doing well, and people don't want to talk about it when your kids are not doing well. And so, yeah, what does that conversation look like? And so Come Alive Kids was created, and just really simple. I've simplified what I've taken and what I've learned in recovery in terms of how to cope, and I've put it into basic principles that children can understand, and to find something that they would enjoy watching.
Yeah, so I just want to add on to that. You know, we definitely not experts in terms of parenting or having all the answers. And I think having seen Ange just benefit so much from these recovery groups, and even myself, I just thought, you know, why aren't there recovery groups for children? And even as I started dreaming, I would love to see almost within the school environment, just like a kid would have, would have like a PE lesson, and we know that physical activity is important. I'm a PE teacher, so I get that. But I thought, like, you know, why aren't we giving an environment for them to grow mentally and emotionally within the school syllabus? And how cool would it be if they were able to have a safe place where they could share their feelings and be told it's okay not to be okay, and not just learn it from an educational point of view, but to actually be given the tools in terms of how to deal with anxiety and how to be able to identify what they are feeling. And so, yeah, I mean, it's still early days, but I would love to have a dream where this is almost being outrun within schools, and teachers are equipped to give the kids the tools that they need.
That's absolutely amazing, guys. I just resonate with that idea so much. And I've watched your videos, and they are so super simple and just positive and encouraging for children. And that's exactly, I think, what has to happen in this time, where there is this anxiety and uncertainty around going back to school. Parents don't know what to expect. Kids don't know what to expect. There's all these new behaviors that they want to learn. And we have to start with a conversation between parents and children about what this is going to mean and what this is going to look like. So I was just wondering what advice you might give parents at this time around their own anxieties that they are feeling around sending their kids back to school into this world that's going to look a little bit different to what their kids are used to.
Yeah, and I think that's just key for me. We've been singing that song. I don't know if you know the blessing that was released, where it speaks about you know, generations to generations, from children to children. And I think one of the things that I've learned is that my children absorb parts of who I am. So the things that I'm anxious and afraid about are the things that my children will be anxious and afraid about. So you are so right. It really is about settling that anxiety for yourself so that can become a generational blessing for your children. It's very hard to teach your children to have peace when they go to school if you haven't settled that fear for yourself. And so that is what I have been trying to do. It's not an advice that I'm giving. It's literally, God, you know, like, where is my fear? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid that they're going to get sick? Am I afraid that they're not going to cope with wearing a mask? Am I afraid that they're not going to be able to follow rules? And God, how can you help me sort through that anxiety? Because I think it's different for all of us. I think the solution that God gives to me will be different from the solution that God gives to Tyron. It really is about being able to come to the Father and saying, God, can you help me? Can you help me to deal with this? Like, what is your truth? And I think in reading the Word of God, we get to see, like, okay, like, this is what I'm afraid of. But God, you've asked me to give you my anxiety. You said I must pray to you and hand over my worries, and you're going to help me get through the day, and you're going to be with my children. Like, those are promises that you've given me. So I'm going to take my fear and I'm going to replace it with the truth. And as that happens, I begin to change as a parent. And as I begin to change, I know that I've seen it in my kids. The peace that comes into the house is incredible. It just sets a different mood, a different temperature. So definitely dealing with your own anxiety and being aware of when your mood changes, when there's tension, when you are fighting with your husband or your spouse, or there's just something's off. And if you can be aware of that, you can grow your own emotional intelligence, which then helps you to grow your children. But it definitely starts from the top bottom.
Yeah, like I like the sort of analogy of are we thermometers or thermostats? Because as parents, we set the environment of our home. We get to decide, do we want our home to be a home of peace, of love, of joy? And we need to set that. And we can only set it if we spending time with the Father. I love that passage in John where it says, abide in me and I'll produce much fruit in you. And, that fruit's talking about the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. And if that's what we're wanting in our home and what we wanted to see in our children, it starts with us, of setting that environment. And on that same point, I think it's actually okay for our children to know that we're not okay too.
Yeah.
I think when we are vulnerable with them and say, mom and dad are also feeling a bit scared and, but this is how we're dealing with it. And I think when our kids see us getting it right, we're modeling to them what that looks like. And I think too often as parents, we are good at telling our kids what to do, but we first need to practice what we preach.
Yeah, I have such a beautiful example of that, and it's just come to mind. I have lost my father died during lockdown, and so it was quite hard for us as a family. And one of the things that I did was just reach out to community as best that I could on all the devices because we can't meet. And I was overhearing one of my second-born son. He was doing one of his classes, and it's like a little, what do they use? Zoom, like a Zoom meeting with all of them on it.
Yeah.
And he just basically opened up to his whole class. He was like, I'm feeling really sad. My grandfather's passed away. And to see him do what I had modeled, that he reached out to his peers and was like, this is what's happening. And they all just jumped in and they just encouraged him. So it was like that vulnerability that I was able to have about not being okay gave him that permission to like cry in class and for his classmates to encourage him.
That's so beautiful, guys. I love that, you started off with the Father, with Father God, that we reach out to him and we hold on to his truth and we replace our fears and anxieties with his truth. And then just to model that for your kids and just to also let them know how you are feeling. So they are feeling safe to share how they are feeling. And that is just so awesome. I'm just thinking around children of different ages and how they understand things differently and how they perceive things differently. And I watched your video of preparing your kids for going back to school. And I was just wondering how you might possibly prepare different ages of kids differently. So say a 5-year-old as opposed to a 10-year-old, how would you prepare them differently for this new season?
Yeah, we're fortunate that we have those ages in our family to practice with. So we've got the 4 and 5-year-old, and we've got the 10 and 11-year-old. And I think from my experience, definitely with our younger children, there's a lot of fun and repetition around the new ways of doing things. So getting them to put on their masks. We got them ones with little patterns on. We take them for walks. We make sure that they know that they can't take their masks off when they've left the house. So it's really repetition of washing hands and physical distancing. We've chosen to use that word instead of social distancing because as kids get into an environment where they're closer together, they'll need to know that they can still say, hey, how are you? It's not complete social, it's physical. There needs to be a gap. There needs to be space.
Yeah.
But in that space, you can still be kind and friendly. And so with the little ones, it's very much fun, repetition. This is the government mandate. This is what we're going to follow for now. And just keep repeating it. They don't have very many questions. They think it's fun for most of the time. And then our older boys, they do have more questions. So they do want to know, can I high five my friend? Is this allowed? Can I take my mask off? Will I be allowed to? Like, how will I eat? And I think it's just about exploring those questions with them and finding time to make sure that you have those conversations so that if they have fears and anxieties or even just something that's in their mind that one of their school friends have said, because that'll be a big part of it, is that they're going to go into school and it's going to be like, oh, have you heard this? and it's what's being passed around is not actually true. So you're going to have to help your children process, okay, well, this is what truth is, and this is really just an exaggeration. So yeah, from my side, definitely more conversations with the older children.
Yeah, I think with those younger kids, that thing of them just not feeling your anxieties or fears, and showing them what peace and joy looks like amidst the craziness. And so yeah, just lots of like hugs and reassurance that it's going to be okay. But I think for our older kids, there's some good lessons there. I think the biggest lesson we've been teaching them is that kindness is going to look very different. So as parents, we've always taught our children kindness looks like sharing and physical touch, and those are actually things that you can't do at all now. And so by not doing them, it's not being unkind, it's actually a new way of being kind. By not sharing your stationery or not going to shake your friend's hand, that's what kindness looks like. And also from a parent and a teacher, they might be hearing no a lot. Like, okay, stand back, or wait till you've had your temperature checked, and all those no's. And you try to show them that, like, mom and dad and teachers are not being unkind or on your back. They're actually being extra kind because they're more worried about your safety than anything else. Yeah. So I think, with older kids, we can have those conversations, but just showing them that in this learning a new way, it's also going to mean doing things differently.
Yeah, I think the word that we've settled on is the word resilient. It's like become a positive word. It almost speaks of like, we've got 2 boys, so they understand muscles and, growing muscles and getting fit. And so it's like, in order to grow a muscle, like there has to be some tension placed there. You have to go to the gym. You have to work out. So as life gets tough and pressure gets put on you, actually it seems hard, but it's really there to grow you. And that just helps bring like a positive, like, okay, I think I can get through this. I know that the goal will be to grow me and it'll be good. So I can persevere.
I absolutely love that practical example of the muscles and getting stronger. And I'm sure that with all these differences, like you've mentioned, with the kids hearing no more often and with kindness looking so different, this is going to stir up a lot of emotions in our children. And so what do you think the emotions are that parents need to look out for in their kids, and how do you think that's going to present in children?
Yeah, so I know that it certainly stirred up a lot of emotions for me as well. And so some of the emotions that I've just seen within my own family have been anxiety, there's been anger, there's been hostility, there's been fear. What else would you say?
I think those are the key ones, hey?
Yeah. So you obviously have this whole emotional side where it's like children are being triggered. And then there are behaviors. In other words, like, so when we haven't dealt with those emotions, when we haven't dealt with why they're anxious or why they're angry or why they're afraid, or especially those emotions that can tend to hurt or harm children, if we haven't dealt with those, you are going to then get behavioral reactions to that. And I know that because that's what happens to me as an adult. So if I don't deal with my fear, I'm going to then act out, and it's going to look, for me, it looks like isolation. I'll just want to go into my room and shut the door and put my head under the pillow. One of my eldest son is much the same. He'll retreat. Whereas my younger son, he'll want to kind of get more physical. He'll either cling, or he'll want to play rough, or he'll look for attention. What else have we seen?
Yeah, not eating. Like loss of appetite?
Yes, so the one has a loss of appetite, and then the one really wants to eat a lot more. And I'm like that. I'm a feeder. So when I feel emotional, I just want to eat. So I think the key is, for me, I've learned to grab it when it's an emotion, grab it when it's a thought in my head, so that I can limit the damage that the behavior will do. And I think that's the same with our children. Yeah. It's like when we pick up on that tension in them, when we pick up on the anger or the fear, to address that, then we're going to have to be on top of it. Like, so if you notice it, don't ignore it, because it'll become a tantrum. It'll become just tears and tears. And to show them what grace looks like in that moment, to show them that it's okay, to tell them that it's okay, like to work through those feelings of anger, and like that there's nothing that they can't bring to you as a child that you're going to go, that's just so wrong. How can you feel that? That you're a team and that you're working through this together. So, and I think it's about parents realizing what that is for their children, because just like how I feel and behave is different from Tyron and it's different from you, so are our children and so are all our children. So there's not a formula that I can go, okay, X, Y, Z, and then we fix it with ABC and then we have happy children. It's just this, there's a whole picture to it. It's mom and dad finding healing. It's children finding healing, and it's learning, it's learning to be resilient together.
Yeah, and I think the key for us as parents is, we almost taught to discipline for incorrect behavior. And we need to first, in this season especially, understand where that behavior is coming from. And our children are going to act out of character or not the normal way we used to them acting. And so when we see them isolating, and maybe that is representing something they're scared about, is to deal with the fear, not the isolation. Like, no, you must come and sit at the dinner table or come and play with your siblings. Actually address the feeling which caused them to isolate. So maybe they're scared because school's going to look very different. Maybe they're scared because they've heard mom and dad chat about finances and it's going to be tighter in this month. And as parents, as we start to learn the feelings that lead to the behavior, I think that the goal as parents is to help children identify their own feelings. So they can start to actually name that. I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. And then as parents to have those discussions. Well, why are you angry? I'm angry, I can't see my friends. Okay, well, this is the situation. And it's not going to be like that all the time. And so, I think we're too quick at looking at the behavior and trying to deal with that. We should be looking at what's causing that behavior and dealing with feelings.
Okay, that's just so amazing. Just discovering it together as a family, having lots of conversations about it, and just seeing in your kids, what they're doing that's maybe a little bit weird or a little bit different, and then having a conversation with them about what's making them do that. And then lastly, guys, I just wanted to ask you, maybe, I think in all of this, it's about affirming our children and affirming their feelings like you've been talking about. And so I'm just wondering, what are some affirming statements that you would use with your kids in times where they may be a bit fearful, like going back to school or at bedtime, those times where they may feel their anxiety levels a bit higher than normal?
Yeah, so for me, like sort of the phrase we love to use is, let's replace the lie with the truth. So the enemy has put like a seed of doubt around that, God isn't in control, or that they don't have the ability to get through this. And then we try and teach them, well, what's the truth? That actually, even though things seem out of control, God is in control. That, the scriptures speak about that even though it doesn't look like a good situation, that God is turning this around for the good, that good's going to come from it. And so I think it's, just those positive statements that we find rooted in the word of God around his character and his promises. I think in this season more than ever, we need to celebrate and reward our children's character. We live in a society where we want to reward their marks and, what team they made. But actually when we see them, overcome something that was, maybe it seems small in our eyes, to say, hey, well done for reconciling with your brother or sister. Or well done for taking control of your emotions, and just affirming their character so they can see actually that they are doing well and that resilience is building. So I think, just to focus on their character and to also help them focus on God's character and how big he is. I love the story of David and Goliath. We teach our boys to, David didn't just see the Goliath, he looked above Goliath and he saw how big God was, and just to give them a bigness of this God that we serve.
Yeah, so I don't carry around catchphrases in terms of affirmations for my children, but I am very aware of when their critical voice takes over something like they're working on. Oh, this is so stupid, or oh, I'm so dumb, or oh, I can't do this. And then I'll give the counter to that. So the affirmation will be, you're doing such a great job. Like, look at all that you've created. Look at all that you've overcome. So the affirmation comes in the power of my words to come against the lies. And the affirmations that I have just loved in the season is just worship. to just put on a worship song, because even if as a parent you can't find the words to say, to have, like, if we take the song King of My Heart and the chorus is, you're never going to let me down, you're never going to let me down, you're never going to let me down. And if that's what you play in your home at dinner time when the kids are going to bed, or there's just such a great resource out there to just fill your home with affirmation, and to do that to yourself as well, so that it filters down to your children.
Yeah. Beautiful, guys. I absolutely love that and love chatting with you today. It's been incredible just hearing from you. It's been so positive, and I think it's just going to bring some peace into parents' hearts as they prepare their kids. So thank you for watching, everybody. I would love to just guide you towards this beautiful resource that Tyron and Angela have. It's called Come Alive. They're on Facebook and on Instagram. So go and watch their videos. They have a really cool one for kids on getting kids ready for school, which we've been talking about. So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for your input. It's been really valuable.
Thanks, Marika.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.